Do you remember when the Ford EcoSport and Renault Duster first came to market, probably about 5 years ago? Boy, did they disrupt the SUV segment, waging war around that 200,000 Rand price point. Obviously massively popular, but their sales figures were proving that the consumers cared less about the fact that what they were getting was old school, old tech, a rough and ready vehicle, but rather that it came packaged as an SUV that they could afford. Now, I could never really weigh in on the which is better debate because, can you believe it, I never actually drove either of them. But from a looks perspective, it was certainly the more masculine, square-jawed look of the Duster that appealed to me. And then in December of last year, I got invited to the international launch of the facelifted Ford EcoSport. Finally, I got to drive it. Now it is the turn of Renault's Duster. I guess it's time for me to pick sides. In every pseudo SUV on the market out there, it's the body cladding everywhere that denotes toughness and utility. Yet in the Duster, a car that actually can go anywhere with its class-leading ground clearance of 210 mils and a 4x4 in its offering, the one thing you're going to notice that is missing is the body cladding. Oh nice, they have left a little bit of it around the fender with that integrated indicator. Thankfully, the flared wheel arches are there. The new distinctive grille with chrome detailing and Renault's signature C-shaped lights make the front end a standout feature for me. And it's great that this look is standard across the entire range, along with the LED daytime running lights and fogs. Our top-spec Prestige derivative is easily spotted by the addition of a satin chrome paint finish on the front and rear skid plates, side mirrors and roof rails. And the Prestige has these distinctive 17-inch alloys. And the rear is also very different. Remember the previous generation's rear tail cluster? The bodywork suggesting a bigger tail light was always the plan. Well, the unnecessary bulge is gone. With a new light cluster, you will be forgiven for thinking you've seen before on the Jeep Renegade. Now, the Duster may only be 16 millimeters longer than the EcoSport, but it sure maximizes the space. At 478 liters, the boot is class-leading, 145 litres bigger than its rival, and that's with a full-size spare. So styling may be subjective, but the one thing everyone agreed upon is that both needed a serious interior overhaul. And like with the exterior, the Duster's interior is all new. Hard-wearing plastics may be the material of choice, but they look and feel better, more upmarket. And having chatted with journos on launch who have driven the previous generation, the overall quality and feel of the interior is a massive improvement. So Renault say they focused on the ergonomics and the layout reads well visually, and all the essentials are easily reached. The entry-level Expression has the essentials like ABS, twin airbags, aircon electric front windows, cruise control and a speed limiter. But it's the Dynamique that adds the creature comforts. Your aircon is now automatic, a first for the Duster. Electric mirrors and windows all round, and a rear park distance control is added. The seats have been completely redesigned, offering more comfort and support. What we've got in the Prestige as well as in the Dynamique is that I've actually got an extra 20 mils of adjustment from a driving perspective. And having spent plenty of time behind the wheel, there's certainly no complaints from a comfort perspective. Speaking about the wheel, it's also height and reach adjustable. The multifunctionality, of course, being a Renault, it does come standard, as is the new electric power steering. Let me tell you, driving through the twisty roads here in Hazy View, it feels certainly true, well weighted, but the bit that I was most impressed about, and you're going to enjoy from a city application, it's got an incredible turning circle. Your basic radio with USB and Bluetooth gets upgraded to a 7-inch touchscreen with integrated nav and audio streaming. The Prestige also adds a multi-view camera, a great touch, but to be honest, it's a little hazy view. And there is also added safety with blind spot detection. Now apparently the one thing you never heard in the old Duster was a rattle. That's because the car was so flippin' noisy. I know it's a good joke, but that's been sorted out. They've added a lot more insulation, so the cabin is a lot quieter. And having driven on both tar roads and gravel roads, haven't heard a rattle yet, so that's also all good. We're in the top spec Prestige, which has the more powerful 1.5 litre diesel engine, which is coupled to their 6-speed EDC transmission. The hilly nature of the roads in the area that we're driving is a real stern test of an engine and transmission pairing. And to be honest, been super smooth on the shift, so that's worked well. But as soon as we got to the more stop-start erratic driving that we adopt when we're filming, and probably more suited to how you would drive in the city, I did manage to confuse the gearbox quite a few times. The changes were a little harsher. With 80 kilowatts and 250 newton meters of torque, do not expect to get slammed back in your seat, nor are you quickly going to nip past a car at 120 on the highway. But I come back to the roads that we're driving on. You know, at 1,000 meters above sea level, the felt isn't low, nor is it flat. And I think the Duster and that 1.5 litre diesel have performed admirably. Really impressive, even with our climbing and up and down. We're still sitting at 6.4 litres per 100 kilometers. That is impressive. But I think the standout feature for me with the new Duster is just the overall quality of the ride. The fact that Renault offer a 4x4 option in the Duster lineup, for me, I think gives them a unique selling point over the Ford EcoSport. But let's be fair, that is not where the sales volume is going to lie. And to be honest, if you really want a genuine 4x4, at this price point, the Suzuki Jimny is where you'd need to go, and that's considerably smaller. But where the EcoSport does have an advantage is from a safety perspective. 6 airbags, whereas the most you'll get in your Duster is 4, although vehicle stability control is standard throughout the entire range. But you know where it gets really interesting is in the engine department. Both offer 5 derivatives, Ford obviously playing to their strength. That brilliant 1 litre EcoBoost petrol engine you'll find in 4 of the derivatives. With the Renault Duster, it's completely the opposite. Their 1.5 litre diesel is where they are focusing. But what is cool is they offer that in 2 different outputs. So I think they're offering you as a consumer better diversity across their model lineup. But it was price that drove their sales success, so let's end it there. Our top spec Prestige with the leather option added in ends up being 5,000 Rand more expensive than the top of the range Ford EcoSport. But the entry level is 15,000 Rand cheaper. So for me, it's done and Duster.